Welcome to Talks from the Essex Hotel with your hosts, Sarita Patel and Latham Woodward. The views expressed on this show are those of our guests and are not necessarily in line with our opinions, but can be. Please enjoy this program and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. Welcome back to Talks from the Essex Hotel. I'm Latham Woodward here with my co-host Sarita Patel, and we know it's a certain time of year when Sarita has her Le Chameau boots on. Sarita, welcome back to the show.
It's nice. Good evening, Latham. It's nice to be back.
It is nice to be back, and today's title, why don't you go in with the title, Sarita, let everyone know what we're talking about tonight.
Well, today we're going to talk about what happens when the heart leaves the home and corporate takes over. And we all know that corporate doesn't have a heart, and it's not supposed to have a heart.
Right. We were talking about this earlier today about how a lot of people, especially in the millionaire, billionaire class, how things have kind of backfired by their adoption of certain ways of doing business. And I think it's mainly because we have been listening to that weird, strange lady who's the corporate placement manager or whatever she's called. And she says some really bizarre things. And what do you call her? A household manager?
She's called a lifestyle management consultant.
Ooh, big title. Well, she's a weird woman, and she's very strict about her little protection racket for her billionaire class clients, isn't she?
Yeah, her millionaire and billionaire clients.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Both, because they're two separate categories, just like first class and business class. So don't get them confused, Latham.
Oh, no. We're in the suite in the Etihad airport lounge, and then we're on the suite in the plane. We're not in first class. That's for low people.
That's for low people.
Exactly. But, you know, the way she talks about, and disassociating the humanness of a relationship, especially with people in me household. To me, it's really hard. I know we've talked about this before, but it's getting to be so prevalent in things like YouTube and things like you're hearing about household help and all these things that most people can't even relate to. In fact, they're very difficult to relate to.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that maybe people could relate to it as a fantasy when it was on television, when you watched programs like Dynasty or Downton Abbey.
Right.
Right? So that was entertainment. But now this is literally reality.
Yeah, but just the way she talks about her employees, it's just bizarre,
Well, I did meet a lot of these people.
Yeah.
8 years ago. And it was a big field that was emerging. Because we knew there were more millionaires and billionaires being created from the tech world. And, when I met her, she was a concerned person for the way she was being treated in an existing job that she had taken as an estate manager. And this happens to a lot of people, and that's primarily why I think she reached out to me, just wondering if some of the things that were happening within a household were normal. And that's when I started to really see what is going on in these homes. I had seen a degree of a shift in what is household help and what is the corporation actually moving in to these homes to create a culture that is like a replacement of their old corporation.
So let's go back to what we were talking about this morning, right? We were talking about basically the way in which their and household staff and the client that was more heart-centric, right? And it was more about, they were concerned about who you were as a person, what you were doing, and it became kind of important because you knew you were having this person be part of your family, basically, and treating him that way. And I don't see, there are some problems with that occasionally because someone can get too tight with your family and then do nefarious things. But you don't have to be so like corporate, because then you've taken part of your life that's where you are on the daily, and you've integrated into a 24-hour flow for yourself, right?
Right.
I don't see how that can be healthy, honestly.
Well, I don't either. And I think, and it depends on how you define healthy. So I would say, as the corporate org chart and what do you call it? Process and procedures.
Yeah.
As they roll into the home, especially with these. Okay, so you take a house that's large, and it's run like a family, and there aren't armies of people working in it,
Right.
right? Then you have a more intimate environment, and that home is a home for the family, right? And people care about each other. The people who work in that home actually are partly looking after the well-being of every member in that family, especially if the parents or the client, the principals, are working a lot. So there's sort of how do you manage the heart-centeredness of a family?
So let's back up a little and talk
Okay.
about the difference between a house
Mm-hmm.
and a home. Because within the confines of what we're talking about, if you bring in the corporate into your home, I think you've lost the element of home then. It just becomes a house, a vessel, like an office building. It no longer is the home where you have your private thoughts and your relationship group in your family group, and you've established this whole corporate structure within your quote-unquote home. That's, like I said before, it's bringing in 24-hour home life
It is.
to your home life.
It is.
That is not a good thing.
No, and I don't know how this kind of rolled out this way. It's
No.
not a home thing. And what we've seen in a lot of these consulting advice sites to help these homeowners manage the staffing is pretending like it's a home. They are literally calling it, a corporation, an LLC. It's a small business or a large business, really, and they are really advising the homeowners that this is how it's got to be if you want your home to be run like a 5-star hotel.
But no one likes living in a hotel all the time, right? No one does. I mean, that's absolute insanity.
I can't imagine. I mean, everyone I consulted with in Silicon Valley said that they wanted their home to feel like a home. And yeah, they go stay in hotels, but not for months at a time. They always want to come home.
They want a place to unwind. They want a place to be themselves. They want a place for their family. And what this woman, we're going to use her initials, KD, I believe, right? She is really getting into this strict doctrine of operations. And I know if we had her here in a seat right now, she'd be like, well, you need to do this because this could backlash on you. You could have lawsuits, blah, blah, blah. Well, true. Maybe true, right? But the reality is, if you want to have household staff in your house, and especially nannies and things, you better get along with those people.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you have to get along with them. But what
yeah.
they've done is they've created a system where there are layers of gatekeepers. So,
Right.
right? So if you have layers of gatekeepers and there's only one person or two talking to the principals, the element of loss of translation enters in all the time. And the people who don't have direct contact with the principals really are trained to not care, not look, not get involved at all. They are literally going in there to do their housekeeping job, to do their gardening job, and really not, it's just a job. So we
Yeah.
do have many hotels that are operating that way. Like if you go into a 5-star hotel, we talked about this, the hotel in San Francisco, it's run by a corporation now.
The former 5-star hotel that we knew and loved, but now it's gone corporate, and it's a different animal. It's not 5-star.
It's not 5-star.
Oh no, it's like a glorified 3-star hotel now, It has all the trappings of beauty. It has all the trappings of elegance, but it does not have that je ne sais quoi, right? It does not have that thing that makes it it.
Well, it's that feeling of like, who built this place and who took care of the curation of the art. Look at the tapestry on that sofa and the rugs. You know, everything was so humanly planned and executed and orchestrated so that the people coming in there had a time to remember with their family or on an occasion. Now everything seems to be around status, wealth, success, security, you know, and it's very dry. So like even when we go back to the home, you know, if you're going to be more worried about the security of your home,
Yeah.
then you will have patrol guards, security staff, people with passcodes who can come here and not there. But there again, you start absorbing a very disconnected mentality. And I just think it's creating more disconnection between these people who have done very well all over the world and the people who take care of them. Like, there doesn't have to be that. We've lived through thousands and thousands of years where it does take an army to care for a benevolent leader.
Yeah, but in Silicon Valley, especially though, I really feel like they've gone to an extent where it's just kind of ridiculous. You know, I was looking at something on, you know, Facebook or whatever. I don't know what the hell it was. And it was about Mark Zuckerberg's yacht, his 300-foot yacht going in for service in the south of France. And the preposterousness of this is, it's bizarre to me. Number one, why would you have such a big boat just to steam around with your kid and your wife on, or your kids and your wife, and maybe some friends?
How many times a year? Maybe twice?
I don't know.
Doesn't even matter.
It's got some chase ship that goes behind it too, burning
Right.
up fossil fuels left and right. What is the point? I mean, get one boat and share it with a bunch of people, but it's just such a, you know, penis measuring thing
Well,
with these
again,
guys. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's this, again, it's a lifestyle. So that revolves around reaching a certain status based on a certain number, and then you're a success, and then you need security. So when you need all those things, but you're aspiring for status, and that's it, then you have to build a bigger boat because you have to display what your current status is. So it's a
guess.
never-ending keeping up with the Joneses. But it is out of control.
It's out of control at this point. And I think some commentary I heard a lot of there. This has been, we have talked about this in the past about how people don't know about certain things, right? And these are people that you think are informed. So you talk to people about the WMF and the WEF and Davos and Bilderberg Conference. I have never seen so many blank stares at people when I mention these things. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not a real thing. They're not planning our economic future. And I'm like, you really need to go down a few rabbit holes here, my friend, because this is a real thing. And then you have all these people within these families we're talking about flying into Davos, the very same people who are saying, don't use gas in your house because you're burning up the planet. It's your fault. But yet there are one person with two stewardess or stewards and two pilots flying into Davos alone from New York or LA. I mean, really.
Well, first of all, it's not even a rabbit hole anymore,
No, it's
Latham.
not. It's real.
I mean, you know, they could have called it a rabbit hole before, but now it's like for real.
Oh, it's for real now.
And they are the authority, and that whatever they decide to present then gets picked up by the media and re-narrated in however way they want to, again, blame the humans for creating all these conditions that are devolving our planet when it's really just a very small number of people who cannot manage their Stanford mushroom test or the marshmallow test. They literally have to have everything at their whim. And because they don't plan their lives anymore. They just kind of go wherever the status sends them.
It is.
I mean, it's weird. I know I'm not saying it really well, and I probably could, but really what you think that is, if people don't think that a few percent, then God, everything, then God help them.
At this time, let's take a break and tell the audience about our great sponsor, Galland .shop. That's Galland Leatherworks. They're bringing you amazing handcrafted, high quality leather wallets and many other things made in Italian Botero and Vachetta leather, hand stitched in California, with edges painted, waxed, polished by hand. They are beautiful. I would highly advise you to go to Galland.shop. That's GALLAND.shop to check out what Kyle is doing with his amazing leatherworks. Everything is a one-off. You'll be getting something original and different. Your friends won't have it. Your partner won't have it. You have one of one, and it's amazing. The prices are appropriate for what you're getting, but you're definitely going to have something really good. I also like to shout out another sponsor in the back pages. We want them to be a sponsor, and that's Weltenberger Kloster Hellbier from the oldest brewery in the world in Germany. And it's lager beer, and it's fantastic, and we want to shout them out because no one has ever heard of them. So, Sarita, back to the subject at hand. So back to the households.
Okay, so back to the households. What I wanted to say is there is definitely a rollout, a directive of how these houses, how these mansions need to be taken care of. So there's two things. I remember asking one pretty wealthy, famous person in Silicon Valley who lived in a 20,000 square foot house in Atherton, and they were building another house around the corner in Atherton. And the new house was going to be somewhere around...
For the gardener?
The new house was going to be around 60,000 square feet. And I remember saying, can I ask you a question? And she said, of course. And I said, why do you need a 60,000 square foot house when this one is just fine? And she said, because we can. And I said, okay, so you can. So you're gonna, she goes, we have to do it. It's our responsibility. If we have an event, we have to, we have to play the part. And she was like an innocent, she was saying it, from her heart, not being at all snobby. That's how she was trained. But the problem with that house is they didn't know how to staff that house because they didn't want 20 people in the house, right? And it literally did not even occur to her.
It's a 60,000 square foot house.
Okay, 60,000 square foot is the size of a corporation.
Yeah.
Nobody needs...
That's like 100 people to run something like that.
Correct. And it had been being run like 4.
So here's the funny thing about that whole equation, because everyone always thinks when they get rich, they're going to be that rich forever. I think you'd be amazed about how statistics about how many people maintain their status wealth-wise. It probably would blow your mind.
Well, that is a really good point, because if you look at the trend which is happening, which is everybody's keeping up with the Joneses in their own world, right? So these people will probably never run out of money. I mean, they could, but probably not.
Probably not.
But if you're sending that message to everybody else, and, we've talked about people I know in Texas who are buying second and third houses and boats, and,
Sure.
They're wealthy, but we both know that the fastest way to run out of money is to buy a jet and a boat and a second and third house. Like, you start going that direction.
Oh, you're doomed.
You're doomed, because people, we've talked about this. People have no idea what the maintenance and the upkeep costs are for these things. They never end.
No, and this is no slight against rich people. If they want to make money, fantastic. I love it. But the reality is we've used the boat modeling before. We've used the aircraft modeling. I don't know if the listener understands that it costs about $1 to $3 million to not replace an engine, but service a jet engine on a really good jet. That's to service it.
Right.
To replace a jet engine, I think, is in the range of $10 to $20 million for a big jet. Mm-hmm. It's not a small amount of money.
No.
And if you don't do the maintenance on these, you're looking at a very big bill within 2 years.
Right. So there it is, right? Again, you're buying something and you really have no idea what the long-term costs are compared to the benefits. Like, what is the benefit of owning something versus renting it? But just going back to you
Not to mention safety.
yeah,
Private jets have a horrible safety record
horrible.
compared to commercial.
Yeah.
It's not even funny how bad it is.
Yeah.
It's atrociously bad. Go ahead.
Well, so we're looking at a system. We know now McMansions are a thing, and I talk about McMansions all the time. I've been watching this all over the country.
You're talking about McMansions. You were not in McMansions when you were in staffing, when you were doing your thing. You were in true mansions.
I was in true mansions.
Big ass.
Yeah, now they're building McMansions.
Yeah.
Everything has to be supersized. And it's actually not even nice quality construction.
No, it's not. It's very ticky-tacky in a lot of respects. It looks great. Something comes to mind is my wife watches the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which is pretty spicy. Okay, these gals get up to some hijinks, but the houses they live in, they're just not. I mean, they're not great. I mean, I've been in some really nice houses in my lifetime, like super nice. These are just like wannabe shells of a nice house.
Yeah, that's why I call them McMansions.
They are,
and they're in Atherton, they're in Palo Alto, right next to a beautiful home.
They bang them up quick.
Yeah, so there's that. But just going back to the staff element, what we see growing is people are recognizing that they need an army of people. So now the structures are being put in like a corporation. And, when we started talking about this, it was only because my phone was ringing off the hook in a way at various points where people were completely burnt out. They were working 20 to 24 hours a day. And when you divide whatever salary that you're making that might sound really big by 20 hours a week, you might be making, you might be better off working at McDonald's in terms of salary. But again, these people think that working for an ultra high net worth person who may be a philanthropist, who may have sold their company, they automatically think that these people know how to manage the home. And they don't. So now there are these layers of gatekeepers being put in to manage the staff. So there's this further division in equity, between the principals and the workers. And that's what we're looking at right now in the world when you talk about people going down a rabbit hole. Right? You don't have to go down the rabbit hole. Who's clogging up the roads right now? People going to work in these McMansions.
Let's go back to the taking the heart out of the home, right? Because for me, that's a big issue. For you, it's a big issue. I mean, my God, Madmana is based on a heart-centered ethos, right? And the mantra. So, is it a good thing to take the heart of the home? No. Is it a good thing to have these household managers dictating corporate doctrine in your personal life? I need your answer on that because I don't know. We used to have a maid when I was a kid, but not since then. Yeah,
well, and again, we can just share our opinion, but it depends on the person who's living in that home.
Right.
But for me, as I listen to these podcasts, there's also one thing that's coming out very clearly, and they are telling the folks who are buying these big mansions who need to get staffed up that the quality of your family relationship will change. And that you need to get used to that because of the size of the home. The kids might be over there, the parents might be way over here on this wing, and that these are normal things. So when you take that heart out of the home to replace it with efficiency and budget alignments and things like that all do matter. Budgets matter. Money is not something to be just willy-nilly spent. But when you have these luxury lifestyle consultants advising the client that, it's normal for you not to be in close proximity to your kids anymore. And that, what we have to do is set up a relationship so that you know that you're raising your kids, and you might have a nanny, but don't let that nanny get too close to the kids. There's all these, again, safety guards. And what that's doing is it's ripping the ability for these children to even see what it's like to grow up in a home.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, it's just...
It's dehumanizing.
It's dehumanizing. And it's not fair to the children, and it's not fair to the staff in a way, because because anybody who's got a heart is going to come into a home and try to put their heart into that business, especially with children. And if you're a dedicated child care person, you want to give that child gets your best, right?
Well, think about it. I mean, would you hire a rigid nanny or a warm nanny?
Well, what's the nanny school in Britain? Do you remember the name of that one?
Well, remember, I knew about Starkey's, but yeah, there is that nanny school.
Yeah,
in
I mean,
London.
and they definitely teach the heart-centered, very much so. But I think they also teach a lot of professionalism. I think that's one of their big things, is really teaching how to keep it professional, but still care. I don't think we have that level here.
Well, I don't either, because it is also the American corporate way, right? So they haven't figured out how to do that. Now, I would say in the earlier years, a lot of people loved the corporations that they worked in, but our corporate movement has changed, and we've seen that slowly change. Now, how many people got laid off in the last 2 years? A lot.
A lot.
Especially this problem with the houses really kind of blew up during COVID, because everybody was at home, right? So that's when sort of these elite people were demanding more from their domestic staff people. That's when they really started to get burned out.
Right.
And that's when I saw this whole new industry of luxury lifestyle consultants come in, and recruiters, because they were out, trying to place people, because there were more millionaires and billionaires made during that period. There just were.
What, we talked about certain contract offers that were made to you, and that you read through the contracts recently. And you were reading one of these employment contracts to a friend of yours. And what did she say to you?
You mean the one that I just talked to? I mean, she was like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up. Because they basically...
Didn't she say, stop, I can't hear anymore?
She can't. She couldn't hear it anymore. I mean, I was reading the job description, and that's another thing. They're getting super detailed about the job description. To the point where you read this thing and it's like, oh, it's a novel.
Don't gnash your teeth. Don't chew ice. Don't look people in the eyes.
Don't look people in the eye.
What the hell is that all about?
Okay. So...
That's some psycho shit from Hollywood.
Right. So that, again, is something that's being normalized in this industry, like as just standard practice. This is how everyone is. You want to work in this environment with these philanthropists? This is it's like a job description for a CTO or a CFO of a corporation. It's 2 pages long. And that's what they are. They are working in a corporation. So my friend, not only was she disgusted by it, but I looked at it and I said, who would take this job?
Right.
And I have had people where I've said, I'll consult with you for a couple of months and have you build a team and get the right people that you need. That was a long time ago. But they said, no, well, we want you. And I was like, I'm raising my family now. I can't. I have to learn how to be burnt out, and just kind of slow it down for a while. And I'm older. But that's when they start throwing money at you. And that's, again, what does a corporation do when they have a problem? They start at it. Right?
Yeah, I think you related to me those offers, they doubled and tripled.
Doubled, tripled, in a matter of minutes.
So they want what they want, they're going to pay for it. What's your number?
What's your number?
Yeah. But
If you're the right person.
But they're still going to be putting those constraints on you about what you can and cannot do. Nothing's going to change.
Nothing's going to change. So that's
But
why.
they're going to lord it over you. That they're paying you even more now for that service.
Right. So that again has to do with a kind of a heart-centered relationship. And a heart-centered relationship does not mean that you have to be addressed to humans, and that it can be 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 done.
Yeah.
And that's why I started the company 10 years ago, because I saw this kind of wrecking ball coming.
I was talking to you earlier today on a phone conversation about one of your former employers whose wife you had gotten chummy with, and you were friends, I think, at one point. And the corporatization occurred, and you were forced out, right? And it's just like that. But I think her, without naming names, is someone major, very huge in Silicon Valley. You were telling her truth.
I was telling her truth. She was grateful for it. Thank God somebody's finally telling me the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And again, she came from older money, but her parents did not run their life the way these new money people are doing it. So she grew up with a sense of entitlement, but also deep respect for staff and what a home looks like. But her, she was being influenced by others who were like, nope, no. You have to have robots in your house. The robots will keep everything clean so you can do what you need to do. And what I think this is also doing is it's another, lip closer. Like why do these people need to keep so much private? What are they doing in these 40, 50,000 square foot houses that you can't say what's happening inside? Are we looking like at a rollout of more Jeffrey Epstein behavior? Why do you need that much privacy?
It's a very good question. Why do you need this much privacy? I mean, are you just so important that you need to be the most private person on earth?
I think they're being taught this, Latham.
Who's teaching them this? Well, the KDs of this world?
Well, they've been placed with a narrative to teach this because it will be better risk management. And when these wealthy folks hear about risk mitigation, of course they're concerned about that because they do have a lot to lose by somebody making a dumb mistake. But again, this goes back to, the gag order. What is going on? I mean, these are pretty high-profile people who are already public figures.
Well, I think there was something that came out a couple of years ago in Silicon Valley, at least about drug-fueled parties, like really crazy, out of control, like any drug-fueled parties with like anything you wanted. And it was, medical people testing it and, just NDAs up the wazoo for these people, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we could talk about this forever. And again,
it doesn't matter in the long run because this has zero effect on us personally.
Right.
I mean, because you're personally bad trade, you could feel personally bad about it because other people are being victimized about it, but it has nothing to do with your life now.
Nothing to do with my life except that when I saw things that were unnecessarily cruel to a staffer, I was able to say something about that and not be penalized.
Well, you had a boss who at that time was very good about that, and recognized his own fallibilities.
Well, right.
And then he got married, and then everything changed. And that's all we're going to say about that, because everything changed. No names ever. But
well, it's just a good, template because that's not unique. That is happening in a lot of places. So whenever a new sheriff comes into Mayberry, the rules change. When there's a new CEO at a company or, everything changes. And so we're seeing a lot of that, a lot of rapid change. And with rapid, headmaster change, everything changes.
I had a conversation about this very issue the other day. I was doing a coffee audit for my friend Bill, who's in London, and I was checking out a big giant warehouse with miles and miles and miles and miles of coffee bags. And these people were getting a $30 or $40 million loan against stock they had. So, they sent in an auditor. Well, Bill was in London. I was talking, go do it. So I was talking to the woman about my career in coffee, because I did a lot of construction of coffee shops. Many of them the listening audience has been to. And my experience within that corporate structure was every time someone left, and a new CEO or a new head designer came in, they'd shit can everything. Everything. The design ethos, what the stores looked like, what the footfall was like, what the materials were like, everything. And they would go in and just redo it in their kind of their own image, right? Always a failure. Always a failure. Because what they were doing was an ego-driven thing rather than for the company. And they always came in with the same line. Oh, we need to update our image. We just need to update this because it's so ancient and awful. Well, there's something to be said in corporate culture for an identity, a brand identity. And sticking with a brand identity is a good thing. New Coke was shit. Coke is good. Speaking of Coca-Cola here, by the way. And it's all these people who come in and try to do these changes, they end up fucking things up.
Well, they don't know that, though, right? Because, again, it's going back to what you said about the ego and the status.
Yes.
If they don't put their stamp on it, it's not theirs. And so even if it's a bad idea, and we've seen a lot of this happen with, like, Starbucks and the beer Anheuser-Busch, and a lot of just epic failures.
Epic failures.
That have cost
Epic failures.
money to the corporation. But those are culture shifts, because there's a culture shift happening. Like, it's a forced shift. And,
yeah, of course.
And if it's too individual, like these new people coming in to try to put their stamp on it, and there's no cohesiveness, then we're going to have more of what's happening. And it like, why fix something that's not broke?
This goes back to our episode Narcissist Next Door from season 1. Why is everything about narcissism? And currently, it really is.
It really is.
Everybody doing things that are really bad right now are basically hinging off of narcissistic personalities.
Yeah, and, just going back to the home, if you've got narcissistic personality coming in and creating process and procedure and structure, then you are basically, almost jailing the house members. And I think some of these house members, like, for example, if you do build a big house and you're getting into construction for the first time and you're working with a designer for the first time, you've been successful in your company, and now you are, purchasing the fruits of your labor in a way. And if you're getting directed by that team where you don't have very much knowledge
Or input.
then you're kind of on that train.
You're living in someone else's world at that point.
Yeah. So I actually think there's a lot of people in these that don't even know that they're being taken advantage of.
No, and they are reacting to people who've been placed professionally in positions to, quote unquote, help them.
They're the authority in the luxury lifestyle arena.
Yeah, let's go back to something like that too. You mentioned to me in a conversation the other day about how, when this goes back to changing the regime and changing the design ethos, when someone comes in from a newly placed agency, let's say, they bring in their crew. And so everyone you're familiar with as the client is gone.
Right.
And all of a sudden they're like, where's Jose? I liked the way he cut our lawn. He was great. We had to get rid of him. Well, why? Well, we just, it wasn't working out.
Times are changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing that they go into. They're almost normalizing that that exiting of all the old, but they have to get rid of the old so that they can implant a new narrative and a new structure. So the history has got to be lost.
Got to erase the history.
You got to erase the history.
That's why a lot of people who come into power, they go in and burn the libraries down. And we go back again. We've talked to the 1,000 times different episodes about the Great Library of Alexandria and about whoever came in. I don't know who it was, the Macedonians. I don't think it was the Romans because it was well before that. Came in and just burned the shit down. Well, that was the repository of all Earth's secrets. So it was erasure of everything.
Right.
And it might have been not Ataturk, that's way later. It might have been like Genghis Khan. I don't know who it was, actually. I should look this up. I will. But erasure of history is key in anyone's plot to make a new future.
Well, right. And that's historically, that's just rinse, repeat, recycle. And you know that atlas that I have that I told you about that I've been reading for like the last couple of years?
Sure.
So it goes throughout history, and in fine detail, it documents all of the erasures, because there were some people who wanted to document that. It's like they're proud of it. It's not for public display, but it's for the few who understand how that was done in terms of empire. So what we're talking about right now is just a more minor version of erasure, right?
Yeah, no, it's erasure of the household staff that you grew to love. And then you've got the new regime comes in, fires everyone because they bring in their own people, getting their palms greased by that person. And then you as the client, you have to start again.
Right.
And that, I think that isolates the client and makes them feel more isolated because they're like, everything I knew and I kind of liked is gone now. So now I have to deal with all these new people. But I guess that's just how it is because I'm super busy and my wife is super busy and the kids, they're at boarding school and we've got to keep this shit together, right? But I don't know if there's any solution to this. I don't know if, are we just talking in the wind here? Because everyone, what do you do? I mean,
well, I think...
Do you get the heart-centric back into it somehow? How do you do that?
You can, and I think that when you do it that way, and again, that needs to evolve because everybody's different, but, when you lose the heart-centeredness, then you lose a artery to humanity. So there are going to be a lot of people who really don't give a shit about the regular humans. They just don't.
They don't.
Okay? And that's not a judgment. That's not a call to action to try to correct somebody's behavior. That just exists. In my world, they live over there, right? I watch. But then there are many people who say from the windfall from this technology arena, and they want to have the nice things of life. What's wrong with that? And so they might have, say, a 6,000 square foot house. But if these luxury consultants and designers and architects and all these consultants I've worked with in the past 8 years are like literally sending flyers out, you need this, are you having trouble with this? And people are literally going, oh my God, I don't have any time to do anything. I need these things. So you're almost getting there, right? But I think these are the people who are going to have to fight for their right to have a family and to have a close-knit relationship. But they're going to be unique, but they're out there. I know it. So, it's just having an awareness that this is existing, but also affecting the quality of our lives in a way. Because if you can't get down the street anymore because it takes up all the parking spots for the staff, then that does affect people. They have no parking. So houses, right? Your staff houses, right? And you put them all...
in an underground garage so you don't have to see their cars.
Right. Then you are taking away from the housing that exists for people who live here. So this is like a cat-mouse thing. You could talk about it forever, but it is definitely impacting a lot of the... elements of, affordable housing. We have an affordable housing problem because there are less houses.
We have an affordable housing crisis right now because of private equity.
Yes, we do.
So we have groups around the country who are just buying every home and just renting them out, and for very high prices.
Right.
and it's an issue that I cannot possibly solve. It hard subject about what is equitable and what is not, and what is good practices and what is not. I mean, I would say that is not a good practice. I think the Airbnb crisis is, I mean, we have a vacation home, and I took it off of Airbnb after discussions with my neighbors in that country. And because it was starting to become a problem for locals, and although we don't rent a lot, it was a situation where I felt it was a bad look for my neighbors who I care for dearly. And I don't want to be part of that.
Yeah, and I think what you just said is, about a solution, it's pausing to re-examine our beliefs, right? And that's not hard. I mean, there's a lot of things that I grew up thinking, and then I was like, well, how did I learn that? Why do I believe that? And so with all these subjects that we're talking about right now, we cannot deny that everyone is participating in a lot of why things are exploding to an extreme.
Yeah. It is very extreme. There's a lot of extremes right now. They're hard to get your head around. But if we circle back to keeping the heart in the home, if you had advice for anyone who is in that wealthiest class, 1% of 1%, what would your advice be to the client?
Well, to the client, I would say, sit down and decide what kind of human you want to be at this stage in your life, now that you've achieved this kind of success and wealth and status. And really sit down and go, my life is shifting. What do I want it to look like? When you sit down and look at that after you've, again, achieved this milestone, then it's like a marriage, right? Every couple of years you have to really sit down and go, where are we? And where are we with the kids? And you have to actually attempt to plan and design your life. So that's the advice I would give to anybody who's thinking about going down this path. It doesn't always necessarily mean that you have to build a brand new house, because along with that comes all of the maintenance. So it's like, that is the talk that people used to have with people before they decided to buy a boat. Okay, let me tell you, what are the dock fees? What are this? When it was smaller. So again, it's just pausing to be mindful about how you want your life to look like, or it will be on a runaway train real fast, because there's a lot of people who know how much money is in this.
Yeah. And as a former boat owner for many years myself, if you are getting enjoyment, you can afford it, and you know what the costs for running it are, and you can do it, it can be one of the most fulfilling things you've ever done in your life. For you and your family. You can have adventures, you can have fun, you can travel, you can do all sorts of great things. But if you're doing it for status and it's a stretch for you, it no longer becomes fun. It becomes an anchor, literally, and it becomes something that is just difficult. That's not why you do things. If you're going to have a beautiful, large house, make it a home and make it special. Right?
Yeah.
You see architects on YouTube or designers, and I'm always taken by looking at some designers in New York City or London. They don't have these great, some of them do, but really good designers have amazingly quaint homes, but they're nice. Like they're really jewel boxes used. I think that's a great word to use. If you've got enough money, make it whatever you have a jewel box.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that, because, on one of the projects that I worked on for a long time, there was one home that we called the Jewel Box. And it was not large, but
you told me it's only 900 square feet or something, right?
a little bit larger than that, but because the 900 square foot house was it's another jewel box. Like everything was just a jewel box.
Yeah.
It was about building something aesthetically inspiring.
Useful, practical, beautiful, great materials, spending your money wisely on the best of the best, and make a big big open space, and I'm talking about people who buy restoration hardware furniture, right? Giant things for I don't know who, honestly. That is not quality. I'm sorry, it is not. You want something? I saw a great thing the other day. If you want something great in your life, like a piece of furniture, find a local guy who's a great furniture maker. You're going to less the same or less than you would if you go to one of these so-called high-end furniture boutiques, and you will. And you can get something that is a heritage piece that you will give to your children. They'll give it to your grandchildren, and it will remain in your family forever.
Yeah.
Your restoration hardware dining table is going to be in a landfill in 15 years.
I know. And that's the other thing. But, remember when Restoration Hardware first opened?
It was a great store.
It was a great store. So that, again, is like the slow frog burning, right?
But it was a different store.
It was a different store.
It was cool little things, that they had from, where were they from? Eureka, California? Yeah. And they brought in these amazing things that you were like, man, I need that in my life. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And how did it morph? I know why it is. I'm not going to mention him because I had business
money.
with him.
It's a profit.
Yeah.
It's like, it was getting everybody into the beige and gray style, which that became told to everybody that that's what was stylish. So when people are so easy to conform or follow, then that's how these things happen. And so it's the same thing with the luxury, the ultra high net worth people.
Yeah.
They're humans too, and they fell into the same trap.
Sorry for the background noise right now, but we've got people at the bar at the hotel here, and they're just having a great time.
Yeah, we got a full parking lot back there.
I know. It's
great.
It's a busy night at the Essex Hotel.
It is. All right, we've banged this one down.
I think we've slammed this one to the ground and buried it.
And we, between Latham and I, we know a lot about this. And, again, I don't hate anybody. I do care about both people's lives, because I've only seen situations where it's been unbelievably reciprocal for the family and the staff that takes care of them. And when you've seen that up close and front with things that didn't run smoothly almost every day, but that's again part of the human spirit, is you deal with challenges, you deal with unforeseen happenstance, and then you communicate in not that is human, not.
It's true. And even in Hollywood this week, and we'll end with this one, is like there was a big story about Brad Pitt commenting about how Angelina Jolie is raising her children like royalty, and how he has such a problem with it because it's not real. And you're breeding children who will have real problems coping in life. I don't care how much money they're going to have. You guys are the money makers. You did something hard to make the money. You're letting your children just do nothing and have money. That's a bad plan, guys.
That's not a good plan.
That is not a good plan. So if you're out there and you're just thinking you're going to give your kids money and they're going to be fine forever, follow our ancestors who always said when they set up trusts and things for kids, you don't get it until you're 45. Taking you through the troubled years of 25 to 30 and the rest of those habits and the rest of those horrible things, and getting you to a place where you can be reflective.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a jerk by withholding that until a certain age, because there is an advantage to actually experiencing the world with other humans.
Yeah, developing a trade.
Yeah.
Learning things.
Oh, it's huge.
It's important. Yeah. Well, that's the heart-centered part of it, and we're going to end again this week. And again, our sponsor is always Galland Leather Works at Galland, GALLAND .shop, SHOP, and they make beautiful hand-stitched wallets in small batches, made in California, and of the finest leathers. Sarita, thanks again for being here. We're going to be coming back with our next episode with Karen. What's Karen's last name?
Karen Dockstader.
Dockstader, and her book all about
balance.
All about balance.
It's about east-west morphing, and aging, and how to get everything out of your life at every stage of your life. So it's not like we're scared of aging. There are so many great practices that are easy
Right.
And you like that's another thing. You could start that with your kids when they're early, so
Amazing.
they're not afraid of death.
No, and start, your own blue zone, making it a place where you can age in peace for a long, long time. With that positive note, we'll see you next time here on Talks from the Essex Hotel. I'm Latham Woodward, your host, with Sarita Patel. Sorry, Sarita. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Latham.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
You too. Thank you for listening to Talks from the Essex Hotel. We strive to bring you interesting and different guests every week. Please like and subscribe to hear more content from Talks from the Essex Hotel. Until next time, see you then. This production is brought to you by Crashing Boar Productions and taken at Madmana Studios in beautiful San Anselmo, California. For more information, reach out to us at Latham at madmanastudios.com. That's Latham at madmana, MADMANA studios.com. All rights reserved, 2026.